Walter, a word. I fully understand the national importance of what we're shooting, and obviously there's no question of diluting the message. I just wonder if it mightn't pack a little more punch if Mr. Brown were to express a little more. For example, at the mention of the clever code, I might say, well, that'll be the first clever thing April's ever done in her life. Do you see? That's just a dash of humour, and then further along.
Excuse me.
Hello.
It's just that the caption at the end's going to be, he's not listening, but the enemy might be. It's a joke for women who think their husbands never pay attention. So if you start answering her, well, the caption won't make sense. I wrote it, the scenario.
I'll be in my dressing room.
That was a clip from their finest, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by one of its stars, Mr. Bill Nighy. Hello, sir.
How do you do?
I'm very good, thanks. Can you tell me how you would describe the film? Tell me about the film.
I think the film is a great night out. It's thoroughly entertaining. All of this sounds like PR. None of it is. I feel seriously proud of what we've done. Set in 1940 during the Blitz, it's a film about making a film. One of those films that they made to keep people's spirits up and to deliver certain information so that people could keep themselves safe during wartime, which was a brutal time, that time, for which a lot of people, including me and my generation, I was born just after the war, have a kind of deep nostalgia for that time, which I think is something to do with a simplified life where people were united against one danger, and that the usual confusion and conflict and static of everyday life was kind of unplugged for a while. I think that's what it's for. Anyway, it'll make you laugh, make you cry, and it gives you something to think about on the way home.
Boy, will it make you cry.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
all I'm saying.
And that's all you can say.
All I can say.
Nothing more.
Your gorgeous and wonderfully talented co-star, Gemma Arterton, said that your involvement was a big draw for her to get involved in this project. What was the big draw for you?
Well, before I knew that Gemma was in it, which would also, I would say exactly the same thing about her, all I knew was that there was a script coming, and it was coming from Lone Scherfig, the great Danish filmmaker. And she and I had tried to work together before on a couple of occasions. It hadn't come off. So I was already excited. And then good scripts are rare. And when this one turned up, it's a cracker. And it was a killer combination.
Good scripts are rare. That's interesting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, they're rare like everything else is rare, like, good blues or good poetry or good, whatever. I mean, it's and perhaps rarer than most things. Screenplays are, to get a really good one, and anything of this quality is really quite rare.
I think as well with this film, as well as, it's not one thing, it's so many wonderful, lovely little things that make up the film, and relationships is a big part of the film, and one of the key relationships in the film, I think, is you and Gemma's relationship and how that develops. Yeah. Would you agree? And how would you describe that?
I hadn't thought of it like that, but I'm very pleased that you should say that. And it is important because he is a pompous, Wally. And
she's brilliant, though. He's fabulously, just hilarious.
Well, thank you. But but she plays him really cleverly, and she flatters him, and she manipulates him in a good way. And they have a proper story, and he does develop. And you do, by the end, you think, well, he's not entirely, a mess, and that he does have some awareness of what's happening around him. So yeah, it's a great part.
The notion as well of it being set, in 1940s wartime Britain, where most of the young men are off fighting, and the opportunities for older men and women were available suddenly. There was things that these two different sets of people could finally do or develop and stuff, which is a great narrative to explore within a film, I think, as well.
Yeah, particularly for women, because women got to do things that they would never have done before traditionally. And I think it was kind of the beginning of feminism, in as much as you allowed that genie out of the bottle, and it's very, very difficult to get it back in. And this is a period, as you know, having seen the film, where male screenwriters referred to anything that a woman said in a film as the slop, which is mentioned in the film. But also, I happen to know that they also referred to it as the nausea. So that was 1940. That's what men would routinely make that remark. That's what it was called. That's what women talked. They talked nauseous stuff. So it's important, I think, for people to know where we've come from and how much we've travelled since then.
There's a line that Gemma's character says as well, where she's involved in a bit of dialogue, which says, "Oh, obviously we can't pay you as much as the male screenwriter," and it's kind of, these are still themes that are, relevant today, and discussions that are still going on today.
The idea that you could pay a woman less for doing the same job as a man is breathtakingly ridiculous, and how the flaming hell anyone ever gets away with it, I don't know.
Playing two characters within a film as well must be an interesting prospect for, a film within a film.
Yeah, I think, there was a long queue for this job. You know what I mean? There would be a queue of actors 2,000 men long. Because, not only do I get to play the appalling Wally, but I also get to play the part that he's playing in the film that we're making, in the film that you're watching. I get to play drunken Uncle Frank. And what's amusing is that he hates the idea, because he's in almost total denial about how old he is, and he still thinks he's going to be offered the young romantic lead, as if. And when it's gently explained to him, or not so gently actually, by Helen McCrory, that he's got to play Uncle Frank, he's appalled until people start saying nice things about his performance, and then everything's okay, which is kind of,
I love his relationships with all those other characters, be it Helen's character or Eddie Marsden's character, his agent, Sammy. It's just, the cast's wonderful.
Well, there you are. You see, that's a credit to Lona Scherfig, and also to the script, Gabby Chiappi's script.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're all there. And you can have Jeremy Irons and Henry Goodman and Rachel Sterling and Helen McCrory and Eddie Marsan and all those people, Richard E. Grant. It's incredible that all those people are there.
With Gabby's script, though, she really creates a wonderful balance, because it's funny at times, but then it's heartbreaking, by the end of a sentence.
Yeah. It's a wonderful balancing act, and it's amazing how they do it, actually. She and Lona have scheduled all that brilliantly, so that you do kind of swerve from straight out of quite big laughs into something quite, daunting. It's a great mixture.
It's the first time we've seen you sing in public since the Billy Mack days.
Yeah, well, I've tried to keep out of trouble, I mean, I did say that I would never put, the British public through that again. But and in the script, all it said was they gather around a piano. But Lona wanted to make it, extend the scene, and it's actually turned out to be, the girls sing a beautiful song, and I get to sing Wild Mountain Time. And if you want to know how that should really be sung, check out Van Morrison's version, which is, in my view, definitive.
But it's down to you that track is the track that you sung.
Well, it was amongst a few choices, and it veered this way and that. But it was a song that I thought, I'm not a singer, I'm not a professional singer, so I can hold a tune, but I can't, so I did nudge them towards that song, because I thought, I know how to sing that song, and I wasn't quite sure I knew how to sing the others. So I did sort of, I tried disguised nudging.
It's a lovely moment for the character, though.
Yeah, it's a wonderful moment. Actually, it turned out to be, because he's just singing a song. You know what I mean? He just turns off all being, a Wally or all the politics in his head. He just turns it off in order to sing a song, and everybody gets, and it's a lovely song, and everyone gets to just sit around and listen to a song. And he's not some, problem. He's just a man standing there singing a song in wartime. During, brutal, savage times where you never knew quite who was going to be left around in the morning, So it is a great opportunity just to see him do something simple and, uncomplicated, and, as well as he can, kind of thing.
I'd quite like to see more of you around a piano singing.
That can be arranged, Edith. You bring the piano.
You'll bring the singing.
I'll bring the singing.
The Love Actually, revisiting it for Comic Relief, was a wonderful success. And was it just a case of Richard, phoning up and saying, "I've got this idea. I think now's the time," and asked you to join everyone? And
it was great, because nobody hesitated, because they all get it. It's for Comic Relief, Richard's other great achievement apart from the movies that he's made, and it's sweet that the two great enthusiasms in his life should dovetail in that way. They raised more money than they ever have done before. I'm not saying that's solely because of the Love Actually thing, but it was, it contributed. And it was great to see everybody, and we were at one point, we had a big dinner at the end, and everybody was in the same room, and they hadn't been in the same room for 14 years, and they were in pretty good shape. Everyone was in pretty good shape, and it was very, very nice to see everybody. Hugh Grant came, obviously, and Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Andrew Lincoln, and Lucia, and Colin Firth, and Keira Knightley, and Martin Freeman, and it was lovely to have everyone, and because it was so. I mean, I knew that when we were making it, if we didn't mess it up, it was going to be, it was going to get a great deal of attention, and it was a Richard Curtis film, and it was going to make probably lots of money and things of that kind. But nobody would have predicted that it would have entered the language in the way that it has. So it was the first time that we'd all been in a room together after that happening. So it was it was very good value.
And a very expensive dinner, by the sounds of it.
Well, yeah. Well, it was actually Emma Freud cooked it, and she's a pretty good cook. So it was around her kitchen table.
It's interesting in terms of the character that you play in the film Ambrose, and he being this character who's desperate for these roles to fall on his lap, and you being an actor who's just seems to have this wonderful collection of fantastic films that we've still yet to see for the rest of this year as well. That's a great place to be as an actor.
Yeah, I'm beyond fortunate, that I get. But the fact that I get a variety of roles is unusual, and I'm very grateful for it. It's a sort of accident, I think. It was born of my agent when I was younger. I was never very good at taking myself seriously in sort of straight leading man roles. I was or taking myself seriously in a romantic context. I was useless at that. So she used to send me up for sort of unlikely things, counter casting, things that I wouldn't normally be considered for. And I would get some of them, and some of them would involve speaking funny or different or something, and I'd pick up a few jobs. And so I think from there on, I could be called on for a variety of things. But yeah, I mean, and I've worked with some of the greatest writers, as we've discussed, and I'm very, very fortunate. And coming out soon, Stephen Woolley, who produced this film with Amanda Posey, he's also produced The Limehouse Golem, which is an adaptation of Peter Ackroyd's book Dan Leno and the Limehouse Golem. Golem means demon or monster in Jewish folklore, and it's 1880. There's lots of fog and blood, and Danny Mays, the great young English actor, and I am. And I get a stupid bang out of saying this. I am Detective Superintendent John Kildare of Scotland Yard. Check me out. And
is it the Scotland Yard bit that really gets?
It's the whole rhythm of it. It's the Kildare as well. There's something about being John Kildare, which I get a stupid amount of pleasure from. And Danny plays my constable, as I like to think of him. He plays George Flood, and we go around London looking for clues. And Olivia Cooke, with an E, the great young British actress who has just been picked up by Steven Spielberg for his new big movie. She's our leading lady. And also I'm involved in an adaptation of a Penelope Fitzgerald novel called The Bookshop, which stars the amazing and wonderful and beautiful and gorgeous Emily Mortimer, and has been adapted and directed by the great Spanish film director Isabel Coixet. So those things are on the way.
What do you look for in a project? Is it I don't know, is it a challenge? Is it a co-star? Is it a director? Or does it just depend on each project?
If you want me to go missing, just say the word challenge, because I'll become history. I'll become a memory. I know you're supposed to want challenges, but I actively avoid them. I mean, I've had enough blooming challenges. I feel, in my view. People say, I'd hate to get typecast. I can't wait to get typecast. Imagine doing the same thing every day when you went to work. It'd be dreamy. But what was your question?
What makes you say yes to a project?
Oh, what makes me say yes? Well, just, if the script's any good, the level of writing, and if, I do, it's true, because I'm a tart, I shamelessly trawl it for gags. That's probably the first thing. Whatever the subject, there's got to be a joke in there somewhere. And if I can find it, but also, no, just seriously, just a level of writing and things that you think will be, broadly speaking, a good thing in the world, rather than a nuisance, and something with a good part. And then you get into the other considerations like who's directing it and who might be in it and things of that kind.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.